the Weerdt from STAM to come and tell about the ideas behind the new City Museum STAM. Welcome.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much for inviting me here. But for the moment, I have three problems. The first problem is I have to speak after lunch, so I hope you will not fall asleep. Then I will speak in broken English, because that's the best I can. And third, the title says that I will speak about digital media and STAM. I will speak about STAM, and there's some digital in it, but we had so much new media and digital this morning, we cannot compete with that. So here we go. First, I want to tell something about Gent, the city where STAM is located. It's a small city in Belgium. It's the third city after Brussels, Antwerp, then it's Ghent, and then you have Liège in the French-speaking part of Belgium. And it's located in the middle, between Bruges, Antwerp, Brussels. Well, it has 16,000 hectares, almost. The population is almost 250,000. We have a growth every year. So this is the numbers of 2010, and then we had an increase of more than 3,000 people. We have, that's a funny thing about my colleague. He said there's a slight female predominance, and we have 12% of the inhabitants don't have Belgian nationality, but they have other nationalities, over 150 different nationalities, and Turkish people are majority. But now the newcomers are Roma people and Bulgarian people, and our average age is 30, almost 40 years. So, our assets, we have. We are a port city, university city, culture city. We are a UNESCO Creative City of Music. So we have a lot of, how do you say it, labels. There is not, the city of Ghent has not one face, it has different faces. But what maybe it's most important is the education city in Flanders. We have over 60,000 students at the university and other institutions. And this will be important in my story later. It's a bit like Aarhus. I learned that it has also a big student community. And as we are a medieval city, we have a rich architectural, cultural, and historic heritage. So this is an overview. And this is the location of STAM is on the Bijlhoge site. Bijlhoge site is a former hospital site. It started in the Middle Ages with one hospital ward, and then it grew until the 20th century, and the hospital only moved away from there in the 90s. And after that it became a cultural and educational site. So you see here all the yellow buildings, that is the 19th century hospital buildings. They are now occupied by the Royal Academy of Fine Arts and the Royal Conservatory of Music. So you have every day on this site more than 1,400 students walking around, having experiments in all kinds of places on the site. The building in the green is the music hall, and this built in the former medieval hospital ward, where the beds were still there in the 20th century, but now it's a concert hall for 1,000 people. And they have also other buildings there that were, because the university, the medical divisions of the university were there, and you have these theaters where doctors or students, doctors sat around to study about diseases. And what's in blue, that's all about STAM. I will talk in the next slide about it. But here in red, you have the former maternity and two new studios. A dance studio for a dance company and a studio for a music theater company. So, and then you have also the buildings without color, that's the opera studio. We have a postgraduate for opera singers. So every morning when you walk to the work, you hear the opera singers perform, and I can tell that's a very nice feeling. So when you come in, because STAM also functions as the front door of this site. Before it was very closed, and now we opened it to the city. And when you enter, and then you go to all different parts. And the green part in the middle is where the Gent Jazz Festival takes place every year. So we have a lot of open space also. And this is the buildings of STAM. We have a 14th century abbey. That's this one. Then a 17th century convent built in the 17th century because the abbey was too small for the nuns, the Cistercian nuns. And then we completed the buildings with a new entrance building because we needed a new entrance building for this whole complex. And we built this entrance building because this facade was meant to be continued, but they always forgot. So after 300 years, we built this building to it. And when the pond where you see here, that was also a 19th century hospital room. Is it working?
Oh, you can use this one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The yellow.
The yellow, okay. So here. But now I don't need it anymore. I'll try to use it. Okay. So previously, this was the archaeological museum of the Bijloken. And when I show you this picture, I don't have to tell you much more, because this is all what we know, and we saw it this morning also. This is a typical old-fashioned city museum where everything was brought together. This is also, the collection started in 1833. Belgium started in 1830, and the idea was even to make a musée historique belge. So the ambition was very large in that time. But it always get more and more sleepy, that museum. And you see, for instance, I will use it. Here you see all the stairs, the fragments of stairs in one room, and pottery and things like that, all next to each other. Maybe the 1927 museum that we saw here in Den Gamle By is a bit, well, it was like that. So the city council decided to close it down in the late 90s. In 1998 they said, okay, enough with it, because nobody came there. The building was in a very bad shape. But what happened? You have to know that in Ghent we have very powerful museum directors, and maybe you know the person Jan Hoed. He was a very famous director of Contemporary Art Museum, SMAC. He was also the curator of Kassel, Documenta Kassel in, I think, 92. But when Jan heard that they were going to close down, he contacted all his colleagues and said, no, we cannot let it happen, because the collection is very worthy, and we cannot let it be put in storages. So they started secret meetings against the city council, and they came together and they had, you know, smoking a lot and big ideas of a postmodern museum that should come in place of the Bijloken Museum. And then they did not only talk, but they also did things, and they made exhibitions in this museum where they combined design pieces and contemporary arts around certain themes. So little by little the idea came, we can do something different in this place. And then another thing appeared in 2000. We had a new idea about how to treat local heritage. And it was from the ministry in Flanders. They said, okay, we can give in the three art towns of Belgium, Bruges, Antwerp and Ghent, we will give you money to experiment with this kind of collections. And I was one of the people who worked in the heritage unit in Ghent. And it was really incredible because we got more money than a local museum to experiment. So we did experiment, and I heard about pop-up exhibitions where we did, for instance, a pop-up exhibition in a shopping street where we brought the heritage of that shopping street back into the street. On the windows of the H&M, Zara, and things, we brought the images of the former shops that have been there. And so we did all kinds of things. We even made a cardboard museum in this museum. We built a museum of cardboard, and there we put all the cannonballs and things like that. And so the few people that still went to this museum were really shocked. Anyway, the museum was closed in 2005, definitely. And then we put this on the door, and it said, "Dear visitor, the Bijlhoek Museum is closed from September 2008. These buildings and the collection will be part of STAM City Museum of Ghent." But we only opened in 2010. That's also important to know. You always think that you will arrive there sooner than in reality. So we started the construction site in 2006, and together with the construction site, we did all kinds of workshops, and we had a book big like this that we gave to interior designers. We worked with the city architect of Ghent, because the city council said, okay, let them do. We'll tell the city architect to help them, but where will it lead to, we don't know, so it doesn't cost a lot. We wanted, of course, also a big famous international architect, because our colleagues in Antwerp, they got really a giant building. But it didn't work out like that in Ghent. The good thing about that was that the city architect and the people who designed the interior of the museum worked together. And we decided to take our buildings to make them part of the whole story. Not to fight against the abbey buildings, but to make them part of the story. So we could, you see there is the building coming up. Here, sorry. Here, this is the new entrance building, and there you see what was there. So that is the building that is replaced by the little pond. And during the construction, we also had this is a very difficult word, archaeological research, and sometimes we found things that we took into the story. We opened the wall between the abbey and the convent, so because the abbey there is the permanent display, and in the convent we have the temporary exhibitions. But in the, for instance, in the convent we found a lot of graves, and we took everything that we found, we took in the museum. And you see also here everything was restored, because the roofs were really leaking. It was incredible. So we decided, after long discussions, after having focus groups with the future public, to tell the story of Ghent in a chronological way. It is a very classical way, but the people asked, please, we are lost in history, give us some points where we can get to. So, and in this, our building really helped us, because it's an abbey with a cloister, and the cloister is like a timeline, and you can walk through the timeline and get out in several periods, the Middle Ages, then 1600, 1800, and so on, until you have made the whole, you walked around. And important also, and here comes in the multimedia, we took 4 maps that are the backbone of the museum. We started with a map, a historical painting of 1534. This is Ghent before Charles V destroyed a part of it. Then we go to 1641, 1912, and then this is where it all starts with. It's an aerial photograph of 2008. And this multimedia application, you can walk through it in the museum. So you see the origin, and you will see it later when I walk through it. You see the painting, and then next to it is the application. And this, for instance, because we have it's in Dutch, but we also have it in 4 other languages. You can scroll over the whole painting, and every street, this is for instance the Vrijdagmarkt, every street, more than 3,500 streets are in it, and you can, it's like a bit the street museum, but it's in the museum, it's not on a smartphone. So we can put in images, paintings from all over the world. We're not stuck to only our own collections. You see how this place is changing. And you can also switch between the different maps. So this is 2008. And you can also look for your street with an index. Another important thing that we decided to do is to tell the story and to make the object not the most important, but first the story. And to tell the story, we needed objects not only from our own collections, but from other collections. So we talked to all institutions in Ghent and outside Ghent. Please, we need that object for our story. And we called it collection mobility. Not only we asked for objects, but we also gave objects that were, for instance, the Bijlok has an important weapon collection, but it fitted better in the Castle of the Counts, a really castle of the Middle Ages, than in a former abbey. So that took a lot of time. What we also did was talking with the university library, for instance. They have a very important collection of medieval manuscripts, and they gave us manuscripts, and every 3 months the manuscripts are changed because they are sensible to light. So every 3 months, people of the library come with new books, they take the other, and so we have a planning, I think, till the year 2016, now for the moment. Also Mas and Brugge, everybody contributed to this museum. And that's important because it's not only from the museum of the team of STAM, but it's really shared. The archive, the library, everybody is involved from the beginning, from the start. We also had a scientific committee and you know how it works. Everybody thinks that his period is most important, and the discussions were enormous. Anyway, we managed to open it on 9 October 2010, a year ago now. And this is a photograph how it was in 2006, before the construction sites. And this is the exact same location now. So you see the open, the stairs that go really into the site, the Bijlok site. And here, this is a LED wall, 40 square meters of LED photos that change every minute. So every minute you have another picture of one of the artifacts, objects, paintings of the Ghent collection. Not only the collection of the STAM, but the whole Ghent collection. Because here there is a big street in front, so people pass and they always see new images. It was so funny because it's not normal that you use it for this kind of things. Normally it's for a big publicity, and that's what Philips and Eindhoven said. Oh, you can easily get it back, the money that you invest, because people will want to make advertisements. But we said no, we will only show artifacts of history. So, opening weekend, people waited a long time for this museum, and you see here this STAM. STAM means stadsmuseum, but it also means in Dutch trunk, the trunk of a tree. So for our communication, we put ribbons around more than 1,000 tree trunks in Ghent, so that everybody thought, God, what is this? What is this? and really worked. And we also took them away afterwards. There was no pollution. And this is where you come in the entrance building, and the exhibition starts on the first floor. And there you see a first photograph of a contemporary photographer. It's Karel de Keyser, is the only Belgian photographer who is a member of the Magnum agency in Paris. He's a very famous photographer, and we asked him to make his story along the museum. And we gave him 20 locations that are important for the history. So this is where it all started, at the confluence of the two rivers, Schelde and Leie. And he made these pictures, and when you look at them, it's funny because they are so staged, and they are staged. It's all about Photoshop. And that was, for him, it was really difficult because he's a famous photographer, and all of a sudden he uses Photoshop. But it makes that the photographs are like history paintings. And then you walk into the first room, and this is a giant aerial photograph where everyone starts to look for his own house. And that's where you said to connect with the people. In this way, we really connect with what people know. The funny thing is, when you walk in, they say, "Sorry, can you move a little bit? You're standing on my house." So it really, I didn't, because when we thought about doing this, we said, "Oh, come on, everybody knows Google Earth. That's not new, and why should we do it?" But on this scale, it's completely different. And the aerial photograph is very sharp, so it really works. They can even see their car standing. And now, "Oh, I have a new car," they say. So this is the view of the Letwal again. Stairs. So you walk in like this, and this is again today. So you have this floor, and in the middle there is a scale model of 12 square meters. It's like the stage. And the thing is that this is the really historical center, the medieval center. We put it there because we also, and that's, I know, a difficulty, we have the local visitors, but we also have tourists in Ghent because it's a touristic city. And the choice to have the scale model there is because they look for other buildings than the local people. And sometimes it went a bit funny because people said, "Oh, I'm not on the photograph, but you're living in the scale model." "Oh, but that's not the same." See? So, and then some people said, "Put the scale model away." But then others said no, because a group of tourists stands around it, and the guide tells, for instance, enriched STAM. Afterwards, we take the boat and we go to the center, and then we will visit the 3 towers and the cathedral. So you build a story around this scale model. And what you saw, the movie is a short story of the museum in a quarter of an hour. And then you go by this glass passerelle, you enter the historical heritage, the 14th century abbey, and there it starts again. There we start again the story of the city. But first you have a look into a 17th century church. It's a bit like Stam is like Ghent. It's everything is superposed. It's like the different layers of time are in the city, and that's why the designer said, "My idea is to like a palimpsest, you know, the parchment where you have written several times on it." So this is the idea of his building up this museum. So we start with the earliest development. This was the room where the boat was in the beginning, you saw. And we now have a scale model in the center with glass, and there are projections of artist impressions of buildings. We don't know exactly how they have been, but they could possibly have been like this. And artifacts of the 2 abbeys that were very important for the early city. And also here on this glass wall, there's the visit of the Vikings in Gent. That's told there. So you can see here, it's where the first people were going to live. It's a topographical scale model. And we put some archaeological artifacts in it because it's so very difficult to show archaeological artifacts in a museum. So we related them to the place where they were found. And this is one of the manuscripts that are in these cases. And then we go to the medieval refectory. We decided to do nothing in this room because the room is so special on its own. We only put tables, like the refectory, and the sculpture that you see there is the only thing that stayed at its place. It's a burial monument, and it was so heavy, we decided to keep it there. No, but it's beautiful also there. The tables we can change into a podium, a stage, and then we have the chairs under the tables. We can change this room in 15 minutes into a concert hall, because what's so important about this room, it has a great acoustics, and for polyphonic and medieval concerts, it's the perfect space. And when you come in, you hear polyphonic music. So, and if you walk around and you see the mural paintings, we don't have to explain that Ghent was a very rich town in the Middle Ages. So then you walk, you go down, and you walk into the next period. It's the Middle Ages. This is a room that before was a storage. There were paintings, boxes, everything, and we took it away and we integrated there the medieval. It's a very important period for Ghent, and we have very beautiful artifacts on this period. But we choose only, in total, we only choose 340 artifacts of the Bay local collection. Bay local collection has 17,000 artifacts, and we only show 340. So here you see how the painting of 1534 is next to the multimedia application where you can question this painting. And we still kept some of the weapon collection. But this, what you see, this is dynamic, it moves. There is a lamp and it gives like a movement. And in every room we have music, very, not loud, but there is music and atmosphere in every room. Then you go out and you walk in the cloister. And as I said, the cloister is really the circulation way. So the only thing we put there is the benches, and I call it story benches, but I don't know if that's proper English. You can sit down, rest, but you can also listen to stories about that period. If you're sitting in this bench, you hear stories about the 20th century, because 20th century is near to this bench. And it's in different languages. These are the photographs of Karl de Keyser of Ghent today, and this is where the people of today really come into the story. They live in this historical heritage. And then there is one person that was born in Ghent, so Charles V. He was born in 1500. We have to tell something about him. But the city has really a very odd relationship with him. Because when he was born, they said, wow, this is the emperor we will have. But after 40 years, he came to destroy the city, so they were not so happy anymore with him. So we show in the first room the emperor young and with his titles, and in the second room it's a dark room where the other side of the story is told. Then we have the quiet period, and this room is also interesting because you see the ceiling here. This ceiling dates from 1715, And this ceiling was put in 1715 in the medieval refectory that we saw first. So the Sister Center nuns, they changed their house, they put a new ceiling in it, and now it really suits us because we can tell this room is built in 1928 when it became a museum. And now we treat the period 1600, 1800 in this room. Also here you have this construction. It is built specially to show all these artifacts that are very difficult to show normally in a museum. And you can walk up. So this is, for instance, also this painting. We know a lot about this painting because the people who are on it, they paid for it. And the multimedia application next to it tells the story of all those people. And when you are on the construction, you can have a look outside of Ghent, and here you have sites inside of the town. And then we have another peculiar story in Ghent that we gave a room. It's the story of the just judges. You know all the famous painting, the mystic Adoration of the Mystic Lamp by Jan van Eyck, and it's in the cathedral in Ghent. But on, I think the 11th of April in 1934, the panel of the just judges was stolen, and it was never found back. But the stories that go around this painting are so interesting that we built a kind of whodunit. You see here? This is like a police station where they say, were there two robbers, or how did it work, what did they use, and things like that. And it's still going on, this story. Still people say, I know where it is. And there is still, in the police department, still someone who is following this story. And sometimes they start digging. Now we come to the industrial city. And yesterday night we walked through Aarhus and we saw the canal that was reopened, and now it's very lively neighborhood. Well, this is a photograph of a place in Ghent where they closed the water in the beginning or the end of the 19th century. So this is also very similar to close the water and then open it again. And this, we made tunnels because it's, of course, and it's true, it's the industrialization. In many city museums you will find this. In Ghent, this is also the period when they were hard working for the World Exhibition of 1913, and when the exhibition of 1913 gave also the medieval aspect of Ghent, because they cleaned all the monuments and they give it really a medieval side. And you can find, this is, for instance, all these leaflets. This is a very typical or special collection in the university library, where there was a librarian. He said, please, he said to his staff, bring me everything you want to throw away. I will keep it. And you find leaflets of all kinds. You find bags. There is even a wing of a bird in it. It's a very strange collection. But for the daily life, it's a very important collection. And here in this room, we also connect with two other museums in Ghent. It's the House of Alain. They are dealing with the daily life in the 19th century until now. And Weerdt is the Industrial and Textile Museum. And we are very connected to them, and we really make the connection with those museums in this room. And then the expanding city, 1950 till today. This is our period, and this is the most difficult to show in a city museum, because what's Ghent for me is different for someone else. And so we had really big discussions and arguments, and we decided to only work with moving images, and that the people could make their own story of this period. So what you can do, with your museum ticket, you go to the multi-touch tables that stand there, and you can choose 3 fragments of 30 seconds, and you make your own movie. And I will, after 1 year, we have the statistics of how it works. It works very well. People can sit there because your movie is then projected here on this screen. And you write with your hand, for instance, Martin presents, and then you present your 3 fragments. And it gives really interactive, people talk, why do you choose that? Even people that don't know each other, they start talking to each other. And you can also look to the complete fragments in the computers, because here in the cupola it's without sound, but here you can look at, for instance, the movies, the journal that was played in the cinemas until the 70s, and that's very beautiful information. So here you can see it, how it works. So this is a table where you put on this is the multi-touch table of the first generation, because I think they are now already the second generation, but it still stands. After 1 year, it still works. And then we have the City of Tomorrow. That's we decided, because the idea is the city is never finished. It always goes on. So we have a room where we present the future projects of the city. And it's not only the projects of the city council. It's important to know that we are a museum of the city, not of the city council. And we can present there projects of architects or never mind. It don't have to be the official projects of the town. And that's not easy, huh? Oh. And this is where I'm in Denmark. This is when you go out, you find this enormous table. It's 8 meters, and there are 4 towers of Gent, the iconic towers of the city. It's the University Library Tower, 2 million books in it. Then you have the cathedral, then you have the Beffra, and then you have the St. Nicholas Church, and they're in Lego. And so, yes, I did not know, but there are Lego professionals. Did you know that? Yeah, of course you did. This guy built 1 month for these towers, and then the people can build their own city. And this place is always busy in the museum. You find there children, but also parents, students. Everybody likes to build on the city. So, and then you go to, of course, the cafe. And you have the view on the outside. Okay, then maybe I wanted to say, what did it cost? It cost in totally 14,693,000 euros. This restoration and interior design and the display and everything. And who paid for it? Well, first of all, and this is so peculiar, the Flemish government, they said at first, we will invest in this museum. And that's because also the MAS in Antwerp, we came in the same period, we wanted to make a new city museum. And the Flemish government was thinking about a Flemish museum. But we were very lucky that one of the advisors of the minister said, please don't do that. Don't build a Flemish museum. It's what kind of identity thing what do you want to build there? Give the 2 city museums the money, because the history of Flanders is a history of cities. So he did. And Antwerp is a very much larger city, so they got 20 million and we got 8 million. And then the province of East Flanders came with 2 million of euros. And then, only then, the city said, well, if they invest, we will invest too. And they covered, or they gave the rest of the money. So 1 year later, we had our first anniversary. It was a big party. We also invited all the babies that became 1 year. And they came. And we have some statistics. We had 131,000 visitors. 11% is foreign, not Belgian visitors. And then the largest age group that we get is the 26 to 55. We get a lot of families with young children. Look, I don't know how they count this, but they did. And I expected that this age group would be more than 23%. I don't know, we don't have the time to compare it with other museums, but that would really interest me. Maybe you have other numbers that we can compare with. We had 3 awards. We have 5 languages, also Spanish, because Ghent is visited a lot by Spanish tourists. We had a great number of guided tours, and we have also school classes. They come on city class. They stay for 3 days in Ghent. They start in STAM, and then they go and visit the whole city. And they can make a program like they on what they want. They can choose out of 50 activities, and they stay for 2 nights in the youth hostel. And in the evenings they go to, even if they are small children, if they are 10 years old, they go, for instance, to an opera performance or something like that. They really experience city life. And we have Facebook fans, of course. Then we did a survey in August, and we learned that 46% of the people spent between 1 and 2 hours in the museum. 41% spent 2 to 3 hours. I think that's a lot. And 72% of the respondents state that their visit exceeded their expectations. And all interactive media scored well in terms of user-friendliness and quality of information. And less than 30% indicated that there was need for an audio guide. Because there is so much sound and interactivity in the museum, people said, oh no, we don't want an extra audio guide. And then for 1/3 of the visitors, STAM encouraged them to explore other areas of the city. And that was one of our aims, that STAM would be a starting point, and that after visiting STAM, they would feel like seeing other monuments or other museums. Because what we did in the heritage unit, like having a network with archives and museums, we're still doing this. We organized museum night from STAM. We organize also the Heritage Day each year in April. Then the most popular movies in the multi-touch table, that will be not interesting for you, but the third is Gent wins the Belgian Football Cup. People want to see that. So, and it's also, we have recent information in it. And that's the end.